the 20th, 6 o'clock meeting. And before I go any further, I will turn the mic over to our clerk, Robert O'Shea.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair, I'd like to just take a couple minutes to introduce to council and to administration our newest youth council member. His name is Ethan Robinson. He's a full-time student, I believe in grade 10 at Kingsville, a resident of the town of Harrow. He definitely has politics in the blood. His great-grandfather, Roy Grant, was a mayor of the town of Harrow, a councillor, as well as deputy chief for Harrow and Colchester South Fire Department. He's an honors student. He likes math, likes science, active with volleyball and track and field. And he'll represent, he'll be the youth council member for Ward 3 and 4. And there's no doubt in my mind he'll be a very good addition to this council. So I just want to congratulate you and welcome you.
I just have a couple comments I'd like to make. Young man, like I was just telling you, you're probably great-great-grandpa, if not your great-great-great one, used to be the bandmaster for the Essex Kingsville Amherstburg Associated Band way back in the days when I was a youngster. So your great-great-grandpa probably was a great guy, I'll tell you that. So I'm sure you'll do a heck of a job for us. Thanks. Now, just asking if there's a conflict of interest. Are we going to get a picture? We can do that right now. Sure. Okay. Oh, Mom's here. We better do it now. Okay, here we come. This time I'll ask if there's any conflict of interest amongst the council members. No, thank you very much. Looking for the adoption of the published agenda for this evening. That was moved by Councillor Rogers, supported by Councillor Snively. Any questions? Councillor Volkes.
I would just like to add a notice of motion for the next council meeting, if I could. The notice of motion would be that the council of the town of Essex review the commercial development charge rates.
Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd also like to put forward a notice of motion that council put on hold the installation of the banner poles in Harrow Center until we have a site visit and a little bit more information. I've run into a couple little hiccups, so I really don't want to send administration gung-ho on it yet. I want to work a little bit harder with the chamber, so if we could just put that on hold. And then, Mr. Mayor, so that would be the notice of motion for the next meeting to bring forward.
Okay.
And then, Mr. Mayor, under new business tonight, I'd really like to bring forward a discussion with council and to see if there's political will to invite representatives from Elk Energy to our council chambers for the first meeting in December due to all of the recent power outages and hydro complaints in Ward 4.
Okay, thank you. Anything further? No. All in favor of the motion? Motion carries.
Okay. Item 5 on the agenda is adoption of minutes, that the minutes of the regular council meeting held November 6th be adopted as circulated.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Malash, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item 6, under public presentations, 6.1 is a presentation to Valerie Alexander. The Town of Essex Council has invited Ms. Alexander to this evening's meeting to acknowledge and give recognition to her animal protection endeavors. And this follows from the most recent news release coming out of the City of Windsor that the City of Windsor has banned performing animals in circuses. So at this time, I will turn it over to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, sir. And I got a little note for you here, Valerie. Tonight, I'd like to welcome and recognize a truly special young lady, a champion for animals who don't have their own voice. In the summer of 2016, Valerie Alexander, then 12 years old, approached this council to ask us to change our bylaws to ban the use of animals in circus acts. A budding animal activist, Valerie spoke from her heart and made a persuasive case. 4 months later, this council was proud to adopt the changes that she had advocated for. And the moment she helped to create didn't stop there. Just a few weeks ago, our municipal counterparts at the City of Windsor also heeded the call to ban circus animals. At the young age of 13, you are 13 now, Valerie? 14, oh, really getting old. Valerie is already a shining example of the difference that a dedicated and passionate individual can make in her community. She is a role model for citizens, young and old, on becoming a champion for the voiceless and an advocate for those least able to help themselves. Valerie, on behalf of this council, I'd like to thank you for all your hard work. Now, if you would come up in front here, I've got a couple little gifts for you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to give Valerie the opportunity to speak to council if she would.
Sure. Turn your mic
Yep.
this way, Valerie. Go ahead.
I got this if she wants.
Thank you so much. I honestly can't even say how happy I am that this is all happening. When I first spoke to council, I said that my wish was that other municipalities would start to follow our lead, and hopefully that we would all take another step towards being cruelty-free. Of course, we're not perfect, which is why I want to come back eventually to finalize the tethering laws. But I just have to say thank you again. This is such an honor, and I'm really, really glad that this all came true.
Thank you.
Good for you.
Councillor Vokes?
The delegate table, would you mind just taking a seat there just briefly, please, so we could address you? Thank you, Valerie. There'll be, look at, Valerie, I want to say to you, thank you for your endeavors in terms of animal protection. Because I remember you coming to council, and you took that flag and you raised it up the pole. And you stood there, and I know as a young lady presenting to council for the first time, I could only assume you were nervous. But you stood there like a young soldier in protection of animals and your concerns about animal protection, and you took council on. And you delivered to council, council rose to the occasion, and you succeeded in your request that evening by the council of the town of Essex supporting your endeavors. And then what did that do? That spilt into other municipalities, specifically that of the city of Windsor. They understood your claim, they heard your claim, they heard the claim that we rose as a result of you coming before us. So it's the history books will write that you took it on, Valerie, and you succeeded, and now the city of Windsor is succeeding. So I can't say enough to you in terms of thank you for your endeavors and your presentation and protection of animals, not just in the city of Windsor. That news will spread through different blogs and different niches in the media, far beyond what you understand, especially with social media. So my hat's off to you tonight. I want to go a step further, because council's not aware of it, but that young lady right now is building can you please turn your microphone on if you don't mind? If I could have the endorsement of council for 2 or 3 minutes. Valerie's in the process right now of, it's called Build a Team 6875 Dream, and it's a robotics team. Would you mind, Valerie, just briefly explaining to council what that looks like?
Yeah, so I just recently joined an all-female robotics team, and we're just starting to build our our work and what we hope to achieve. We're really in need of sponsors, and so we were hoping that maybe we could achieve by talking to other companies and places that may be all female, or places that that want to help out and make females empowered and things. So we just wanted to make ourselves known so that we can achieve our goals in the future.
So you're carrying the torch of the gender abilities across. Once again,
Yes.
Good for you. So with that being said, just so you know, Valerie, I understand your endeavors and what you're striving to do. So I'll donate $500 to you tonight to get you started.
Thank you so much.
Because I know you need some money to get rolling. So the table's out to anybody who wants to match that or meet me on that, but you can leave here tonight knowing you have $500 for sure.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you're more than welcome.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome, Valerie.
Councillor Bondi?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you again for coming back. And I look forward to working with you to fix our tethering bylaw to make it a little more sensible. One thing I do want to point out to council and the greater community is that the Windsor Star is not short from reporting bad things about us. But what they did miss, when the city moved to ban circus animals, what they missed was, they said other municipalities have banned animal acts, including Barrie, Burlington, Hamilton, Kingston, Kitchener, Markham, Mississauga, Niagara Falls, and Toronto. They forgot to mention us. So a shame on them to the Windsor Star, because Essex was the first locally to ban animals in circus acts, thanks to Valerie and with the support of council. So I really do hope that other local municipalities in the region take heed of what Essex has done and now what Windsor has done, because it really is making a difference. So thank you, Valerie.
Thank you. Hey.
6.2 on the agenda this evening is Councillor Bondi. She will be providing a conference update from the Ontario Association of Committees of Adjustment and Consent Authorities that was attended by Councillor Bondi back in October in Cobourg, Ontario.
Councillor Vokes?
So I won't waste any time here, and I'll jump right on the bandwagon. I don't think I have to sit out there, and I'll make sure I talk loud enough for everyone. So as council knows, and some people in the audience and our residents may know, that I'm a new member to the Committee of Adjustment. So being a new member, I saw that a conference came up, and I thought it would be a good opportunity for me to learn about the Committee of Adjustment, because although I've been on council for 7 years, the Committee of Adjustment has kind of been a foreign beast to me, and I've kept it at arm's length, because being on council, you can't be on every committee, and you can't be an expert on everything, or you would burn yourself out. So I attended one in, not in Niagara Falls, sorry, that's the next one. I attended one in Cobourg in October, and it was really interesting. The first night was a social night, and I walked into the room, and there was primarily women there. So I started just wondering, and I'm thinking to myself, the number of women on municipal councils in Ontario, and how can there be so many women in the room? So once I started talking to people, I realized that most of them were the secretary treasurers of the committee. They weren't elected officials. So, and that started talking. The whole conversation that night was basically, where do you come from? What is your committee composition, and why? And so what I discovered was, really, which was, I think, the most shocking thing about this, was that municipalities either have council members on their Committee of Adjustment, it's everybody on council, it's a separate committee of council, or they either have people from the community. They do not have a mix of both. And from talking to them, I could see justification why. And from being on the committee, even though I've only been on the committee 3 or 4 months, I can see rationale why. The Committee of Adjustment can sometimes be very political and very contentious. So if all of council is on the committee, you all feel the heat. And if only 1 or 2 people are on the committee, only 1 or 2 people feel the heat. So, and then you have, we have wards. So if an application comes up in somebody's ward, there's just different politics. So I can see the merit, and I really think council has to have that conversation going forward. What do we want our Committee of Adjustment to look like? So there's a lot of talk about best practices and reasons why the committee does things. Our committee, I think our planning has done a really good job in terms of providing a manual with what we need. Code of conduct was gone over again and again, conflict of interest, the new changes to the bills that our CAO Hunter brought forward. That was a whole session there. So understanding, where our authority is under the Planning Act. Some things that were new to me that really made me think too was site inspection guidelines. So one of the things that some of the committees have out there are guidelines for site inspections, because it is encouraged that you go see the sites. Because if you're looking at it on a map, you really don't get to see what's going on. It's not encouraged to go with other committee members and discuss it. It's not encouraged to talk to the homeowners, which was something that enlightened me, because for my first meeting of the Committee of Adjustment, I'm looking up the names on the application and calling them like, hey Bob, what's your application all about? That is a no-no. I didn't know that. So another thing that they brought up was ID cards, which we don't have. So ID cards and a trespassing waiver. So part of the planning application would be, do you allow the Committee of Adjustment members to go on site on your property? And they have to sign off on that. So that and then I have a badge. So if I'm a Committee of Adjustment member on a site, people recognize me. Another thing they talked about is the town should provide you with vests and work boots, which I was like, whoa, that may be going a little too far, but anyways, it came up. Health and safety was a big thing that they talked about, making sure that your lay people on the committee and that your councilors on the committee are protected. So, in making sure that that is a signed part of the application. They also talked about different remote areas in the province, winter months, how that affects applications. For example, you really can't see a lot in the winter. You can't see what you want to see if there's stakes or if there's flags. So that came up, not to ask any questions to the property owners, to direct all questions to the staff. And a lot of it was focused on customer service, which from my limited experience on the committee, I feel our staff in the planning department do that very well compared to other municipalities from what I was hearing at the committee. Our staff do not bring an application forward to the committee until all the checks are checked. So we're not deferring applications, we're not going back. Our staff do a really good job of that. So diverse members. It was another conversation that came up. You want to have diverse members on your Committee of Adjustment. You do not want to have all city people. You do not want to have all farming people, which I think we do. I think right now it's very diverse. But going forward, that's something to keep in mind. the application process for the Committee of Adjustment, when people submit their names, that's what you want to look for, is diverse. Bill 139 was talked about too, changes on the Planning Act, how we're removing the Ontario Municipal Board. I would explain that to you, but I would probably not do it as well as planning would do when it comes through to fruition completely. So yeah, my big takeaway was that for the next term of council, whoever is in these 8 seats, it will be then, that they really need to, I think, look at how other committees of adjustment are operating and say, is it best practice to have council members on that committee? Or is it best practice to have the Committee of Adjustment be a council and you meet before? Or do we want to pass it along to lay people? And those are the big questions that I think council needs to ask, and they all have their pros and cons, but it maybe is something to leave with planning, have them research a little bit, come back to us and say, okay, municipalities do this. Do you want to still continue the status quo, or do you want to change it? That's all. Could take any questions if anybody has any. And
A mover for and seconder for the verbal report. Councillor Bundy, thank you very much for that, Jerry. Councillor Snively, Deputy Mayor Melange, any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, under item 7, our first item of unfinished business, 7.1, is council member committee vacancies. Back at the July 24th special council meeting, council received the report clerk 2017-09, and at that time appointed Councillor Snively to the Police Services Board. But at that time, council deferred appointments to fill the remaining council committee vacancies. At the September 5th regular council meeting, council appointed Councillor Bjorkman to fill the ACT committee. So at this time, there remains we have now held the by-election October 23rd, and there now remains council member vacancies on the following committees or boards: Finance Committee, Communities in Bloom, Personnel Committee, and alternate position for the ELK Energy Board. And we'd be looking potentially for direction from council at this point.
Councillor Bundy.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. When Councillor Caxero resigned, we did have a conversation about his committees. A couple of them were filled. It was my intention that we would speak to the newly elected council member, who is here now, about filling the committees that were vacant. My suggestion would be, and I would like to make a motion, that we appoint Ron Rogers to the Finance Committee, Communities in Bloom Committee, Personnel Committee. My other suggestion would be that we have not needed an ELK alternate so far, so I would just scratch that one for the remainder of the term. We can revisit it in the next term, because we haven't had an issue with quorum at ELK, and there's only 1 year, 10 and 11 months left. So that would be my motion, that we appoint Councillor Rogers to Finance, Communities in Bloom, and Personnel, and remove ELK Energy alternate.
Okay, the motion's been made. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor excuse me, Councillor Snively. Now, questions to the motion? Are there any?
He's got to accept.
Okay, well, and that's what I was going to ask, if anyone. We'll go right to Mr. Rogers. Councillor Rogers?
Absolutely, I will take those.
You would fill in, and you're already on the Communities in Bloom, so as chair, as a layperson, yeah. Okay, so, no,
They'll have to work around it. They'll have to work around it, that's all. They'll make it happen.
any further discussion to the motion? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Beg pardon?
Am I allowed to vote now? Sure you are.
Sure. Thank you very much, sir, for that.
Mr. Chair, 7.2 under unfinished business is the nomination of Terrence Wright to the Essex County Agricultural Hall of Fame. At the November 6th meeting, council passed the following resolution, that the CAO investigate and report back to council if council could nominate Terrence Wright as a recipient to the Essex County Agricultural Hall of Fame. And so that is being brought back this evening for council's consideration.
Councillor Snively, any comments?
Yes, I do, your worship.
Can I just go to our CEO first, please? Mrs. Hunter.
Through your worship. I did get into contact with the Essex County Agricultural Hall of Fame. I have the application completed as far as I can complete it. I've given it to Keith Wright to complete the rest of it. Basically, it is just a resolution from council that I need to nominate him for the Hall of Fame, and then I send in the application once we have it complete.
For that, Councillor Snively.
Through your worship, okay, to Donna, I didn't know you give it to Keith. I'll follow up with Keith and get that, okay? But tonight you need a motion to move forward on it? I would make that motion because I brought it forward, and I'll make the motion if I can get a seconder.
Moved by Councillor Snively and supported by Councillor Rogers. Question to the motion. Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor. Motion carries. Councillor Snively.
Yeah, through your worship, just to Donna, when did you give it to Keith? When did Keith get that? I was gone all last week, so.
Through your worship, I think it was either Wednesday or Thursday that I emailed it to him, and I followed up with a call to him, so they were on their way somewhere, and he said he would take a look at it.
Okay.
There's quite a number of dates that he needs to get for me, as well as a picture.
Okay, great. I'll follow up tomorrow. Thank you.
Item 8 on the agenda, reports from administration. 8.1 is Community Services Report 2017-028. In reference, New Year's town-sponsored events. That said report be received and that council supports the town-sponsored New Year's events listed in the report.
Moved by Councillor Vokes, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
8.2 is Community Services Report 2017-029. Special Events Resource Team Update for November 2017 for receipt.
Moved by Councillor Bondi, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Any questions? All in favor? Carries.
8.3 on the agenda is Planning Report 2017-41. Kimball Estates Release of Securities. That said report be received and that council approves of the release of the balance of the securities for Phase 4 in the amount of $17,289.
Moved by Councillor Rogers, supported by Councillor Snively. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
8.4, Finance and Business Services Report 2017-10. 2018 contract for policing services with the Ontario Provincial Police. That said report be received for council information purposes.
Moved by Councillor Bjorkman, supported by Deputy Mayor Melange. Questions? Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wondering if Mr. Morrison can go over this, like just the highs and lows and what it means for the proposed 2018 budget that we've passed.
Yes, sir, Mr. Morrison.
Through the chair, all this information was included in the 2018 budget, so our 2018 budget is adopted in principle with the amounts that are presented here.
I believe this might have been more for the public at home.
Yes, just because, I believe in our budget, we passed it with a proposed of 180 grand. I just want to know for the public at home, like where we are on that.
Through the chair.
Go ahead, sir.
Clarification on the 180.
When we met 2 weeks ago on the budget, or a week ago on the budget, we had in our 2018 proposed budget an increase in the OPP contracting services estimated at $180,000. Are we above that or below that or right around that?
Just through the chair. The 2018 or 2017 budget included a transfer reserve for the contract position for the OPP. I believe that's what it was. And that's what attributed to that 180 grand, that plus a few other things. The 2018 budget, we didn't have that contribution to reserve, so that's why the increase was $180,000, when in fact, we actually decreased by $3,000 based on the year-end adjustments for 2015 and 2016.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? All in favor? Motion carries.
8.5 is Clerk Report 2017-011, re 2018 regular council meeting dates, that said report be received and that the regular meeting dates proposed in the report be approved by council.
Moved by Councilor Bjorkman, supported by Councilor Bondi. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
8.6 on this evening's agenda is a verbal report by the Chief Administrative Officer providing an update on the procedure for a non-medical cannabis retail facility in Ward 4.
And Mrs. Hunter?
Through you, Worship. I did reach out to the Ministry of Finance to find out what process we could follow if we wanted to put in the name of one of our apparel in terms of a facility. At this point, they're not accepting that. They're merely appointing the ones that they've chosen. But it's my feeling that it would not hurt for us to still put in a letter expressing our desire to be a location for one of these retail outlets. So with council's direction, we will prepare such a letter and send it out.
Councilor Vokes moves, supported by Councilor Rogers. I have a comment to the motion. If we're going to send a letter for one, maybe 3 or 4, seeing how we have 4 wards, we don't have to say we're putting one in each ward, but if we were to ask for, say, 3, and they said, we'll give you 1, might be a better shot at getting 1 versus ask for 1 and get none. I don't know if that'd be a good idea, but that's my only comment to anything. Anyone else have a comment? Councilor Rogers?
There. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would think that we just need to put one letter in just saying that the town is looking for support in establishing one. I guess we don't even have to put in where in our town, but I personally was thinking of the Harrow Urban Center as a stimulus to for traffic through the area, etc. And that would be it. But I think one letter would suffice. Just that we are interested in being considered.
Okay, Councilor Vokes.
Yeah, there's obviously the skeletons out of the closet in terms of cannabis. It's very common today. It's on every street corner. Obviously, the Liberal government's legalizing it. And next year, in July, you'll be able to walk into LCBO outlets and get your choice of certain strains of marijuana. So we have to identify that there's an interest to them, not in any specific number. There's an interest from the town of Essex very clearly that says we have as a municipality interest in any opportunities to establish. Simple as that. And we don't need to identify numbers because we could remotely be in line to get 2 maybe, and we go, oh, they only want 1. They said 1. Give it to somebody else. So let's not identify by given numbers.
Councilor Bondi?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the same topic, but a little bit different, I'm just wondering if AMO has sent out any information in terms of how municipalities will be impacted by the, I'm not saying I'm against this. I'm saying I want to look into this because we are going to, municipalities, as we know, will be bearing the burden of policing costs and implementation costs, but yet there isn't a plan yet to give us any of the tax money that's coming from that. So that's something that I think administration has to have on their radar. It sounds like there's a consultation period right now on the proposed tax plan. Provincial and financial ministers are slated to meet in the nation's capital after consultation closes December 7th. So there was an article recently in the Windsor Star. It didn't really say municipalities have a period where they can provide input. I don't want to miss the boat for providing input right now. I know that AMO is advocating for cities and towns to get their fair share. So along with having stores, which I think would be great, we need to make sure that we have the money for the extra policing or anything else that comes out, all the unintended consequences. I remember from 2 AMOs ago, we were at the casino in Windsor, and the city of Colorado came forward, and they talked about all of the good things that came with it and the bad things that came with it. So I want to have our eyes wide open in terms of how can we tap into that tax revenue when we're going to be responsible for policing a lot of it.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor of the letter? Motion carries. Now we're looking for receipt from the CAO's verbal report. Councillor Rogers, Deputy Mayor Malage, questions? All in favor? Carries.
Item 9 on the agenda, Mr. Mayor, is reports from youth members. Once again, I'd like to extend my welcome to Ethan Robinson this evening. As well, our other youth council member for Ward 1 and Ward 2, Ava Hoffman, it looks like she's either running late or could not make the meeting at the last minute. But on her behalf, I just wanted to report that this morning, myself and Ava, we attended and we gave a brief presentation to 3 civics classes at Kingsville right now, classes which had a number of Herald students in the class. So Ava, in all 3 classes, spoke to the virtues and the importance of youth getting involved in government, taking an interest, and really sending the message, I thought, home that, just because you're young and not of voting age doesn't mean you can't make an impact, and you can't make an impact now. So she did a fantastic job, so it's a shame she isn't here this evening, because I really think she did a good job at that. And then we also had a selfish purpose to the presentations. Part of what we're trying to do as far as in improving the involvement of the youth in council activities is we're looking at setting up a youth focus group, potentially to start it in February. So we were there speaking to each of the classes today, and we're going to visit other schools as we make arrangements. But looking for members of youth to maybe get together at Town Hall, maybe on a quarterly basis, once every 3 months, and provide some feedback and some discussion on what some of those important issues are, so that we can look at maybe taking some of those issues to council, if they are issues that council can deal with, or even if they're provincial or federal issues, still important to bring awareness to those. So yeah, it's a shame she's not here tonight, because I wanted to commend her. She did a really good job.
Thank you for that, sir. Councillor Vokes?
Thank you, Worship. In terms of Ava's endeavors, Rob, I really would, as a councillor, appreciate if the next council meeting, that if Ava's here, and if she is here, that you personally could reiterate those same comments to her. Because coming from a gentleman of your stature with the town of Essex, it bears some weight with it. So I really would appreciate if you could forward the same message to her at the next meeting, please, and thank you.
Bondi?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just also want to welcome Ethan, and I just want to give him, the opportunity, anytime you hear an issue that we're discussing and you want to throw in your 2 cents, just raise your hand just like the rest of us, and the mayor will acknowledge you in turn, and then speak to it. So please don't be shy. We'd love to hear from you. That's why we've added youth member council seats. And like I invited before, I would love to sit with you and talk about some issues in Harrow and hear about some of the issues that you're dealing with in Harrow too, as well. So welcome.
Thank you. Councillor Vokes?
Ethan, you a hockey fan?
Yes, I am.
Who's your team, buddy?
Detroit.
Detroit, okay.
Both of you, could you both speak up? Both of you, start all over again. I cannot hear you. Both of you had the mic on, so get up close like this, so all of us can hear you.
Who was that you said?
Detroit.
Councillor Snively.
Just one thing, Your Worship, don't forget Toronto's what, 6 in a row now, or 7 in a row? You know what I'm saying?
I knew I was doing something wrong. Okay, hurry, Rob, jump in.
All right. Item 10 on the agenda, any updates from County Council?
Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you, through your worship. Not an additional update, but over the last week, I sent out to all council members a county roads budget, just so that for your perusal, so that we would know what roads are going to be affected in our area over the next little while. So County Road 20 was the one that was coming along the way. They're doing it piece by piece, similarly to how we do ours. It's too expensive to do one whole highway or road at the same time sometimes, so they're doing it in pieces, and I passed that along to administration as well, so that they might have already had it, but I passed it along to them as well, again. So nothing else new other than that, but whenever we see something of interest, the mayor and I, that would pertain to our town that might be of interest to our council members. That was something that was a conversation not that long ago about how long before we got to Harrow. So just wanted to mention that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Welcome, sir. Thank you. Councillor Snively.
Thank you, Your Worship, to our Deputy Mayor. County Road 20 in our municipality, okay, how many stages are to go through from, let's say, from Arner? Are they going to do from Arner to where the Meadows used to be, all the way through? They're going to do that road complete, aren't they? How many phases is that, Deputy Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I believe it's 4.
4-year project?
4-year project, and they're going to start, they've already gone through Amherstburg, so they'll be starting in westerly from the west, going east, so that's the direction they're going. So when they hit Harrow, then next will be from Harrow to the Arnertown line.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
11.1 on the agenda is correspondence to received as proposed consent items. That the correspondence listed in agenda item 11.1 be received and where indicated to further share with the community using suitable methods of communication.
So if someone will move receipt of all of them, and anyone wants to discuss, Councillor Snively moves, and supported by Councillor Vogt. Oh, no. Okay, supported by Councillor Bonnie. Yes.
Your Worship, to our CAO, Donna, have we sent a letter out to the Ontario and federal government, our concerns on the algae bloom? I think we have, haven't we?
Yes.
That letter went out? Okay, great.
Through you, Your Worship, yes, it did.
I know, further that, I know being on IRCA, the board, that we're very concerned about it too, and we're fighting from that end to have the province and the federal government try to do something. So just give the council that update. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Vogt.
Thank you, Worship. Where are we with, in terms of council support of Bill 148? I see it listed here under 11.1.5.
Okay, our CEO, Mrs. Hunter.
Through Your Worship, the bill hasn't received royal assent as yet. The town did, through myself and the HR manager, provide comments back to the province on our thoughts on Bill 148. Subsequent to that and subsequent to a lot of comments being received, they've backed off on the whole fire thing, equal pay and so on, and standby. So there will be a report coming back to council for the next council meeting from the manager of HR on the impacts of Bill 148 as it stands now, keeping in mind that it hasn't received royal assent as yet.
Okay, thank you, because I was under the understanding that the conditions of Bill 148 were the municipalities were exempted, right? Yeah, it did. Right? Bill 148 148 in terms of municipalities, has the Liberal government has agreed to exempt municipalities from it.
Your worship, for emergency services and for public services. In other words, your snow removals and those types of things, yes.
Okay, so in terms of our part-time summer workers, the increase would apply to them?
Through your worship, we have had some discussion about how that's going to impact, but certainly if there's a required impact and it's more than what they have been making in the past, then certainly they will make what is required. However, in most cases, our students are paid slightly above minimum wage, so the impacts at this point are not dramatic, but there will be some impacts that will finalize.
So, thank you. So that raises my next question, and I wasn't at that specific meeting, but it was identified that municipality of Essex would be subject to financial concerns or strains if the Liberal government was successful in passing 148. So that's not valid then.
Through you, Your Worship, it was valid at the time, Councillor Votes, because the whole exemption related to municipalities just came out recently in the last week. So when we were talking at budget about the impacts being anywhere from $100 to $1 million, that was on the basis that fire would be impacted in the part related to standby pay. So now we have to go back and reanalyze. And see if we were within the $100,000 contingency that we had established to go within our budget.
Okay, so just one question, 1 point. So all our workers with the town of Essex right now, whether you're administration, whether you're QP, or whether you're part-time, everybody crests $15 an hour.
That would be the minimum that they would if they were full-time, not student, because there's a student rate. If they were full-time adult workers or part-time adult workers, they would be getting at least $15. But if you look at our union and non-union agreement, there is not one job that is below $15, and typically our students have been above the student minimum wage.
So just for clarity purposes, so I understand it. So if we were to hire next spring, after school got out, summer help, what would we pay them per hour?
Through you, Your Worship, we have not completed, because we're waiting to find out what is going to pass and what is not going to pass, we have not determined all the specifics related to this bill. As I mentioned earlier, Tara McGowan will be coming to council next week with what information she can provide based on what we know right now. Until they provide royal assent for that bill, we will not be able to give you absolute numbers.
Okay, so now my point is that I want to make is I hope this council would not get in the boat with other politicians in terms of Bill 148 and pay increases. I hope we wouldn't do that. Because the reality is that people in this day and age can't survive. And to say that people coming to work, whether you're I just hired an employee with my business. I hired him in at $21 an hour. $21 an hour. And there's open for review for more pay. The reason is because it's tough out there. And if I'm making it, they're going to make it. And we should be doing the same. And anybody should be doing the same. I say shame on anybody. And the reality is that some politicians are challenging that, some are making $168,000 a year plus expenses. And the low end spectrum, some of them challenge it, are making well over $100,000 plus expenses. But they're telling a young man or a young lady that you're not worthy of 15 because it could strain my municipality, and I'm not going to support that. Does that make sense to anybody?
Okay. Oh,
yes.
Still going? No, I thought you might be finished.
No, I'm not done. So I want to go on record because it was identified that the Council of the Town of Essex doesn't support the Liberal position of the pay increases. I want to go on record and make it very clear. This councillor does. just to make a better life and a better provisions for the underprivileged, because that money comes back into our community. Simple as that. We dispense it out, it comes back. Simple as that.
At the appropriate time, we will deal with that issue, sir. Thank you. Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for a little bit of clarification, at the last council meeting, council had on its correspondence to be received and supported, I believe, correspondence from another municipality that was siding with the position of Tecumseh. This council decided to table that because we said, we're not going there until we look at it. So Councillor Vokes, I believe that this council is looking at more information, and that is why our HR manager is coming back. So I feel similar to you. I want to know more information. We did not accept that correspondence from that other municipality. So that's why we're having the presentation. And Mr. Mayor, when this topic is done, I would like to talk about the dog pound.
Okay. Anything further to 148, anyone?
Yeah, just real quick, then
Councillor
somebody
Rowe.
better identify to 96.7, because they're the ones who reported out that the town of Essex supported the Liberal government, or supported the position of not the pay increase.
Okay, Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As council can see, there is the Lakeshore Dog Pound agenda on our agenda tonight. And we just recently had the meeting, so I just want to bring council into the loop with what's going on there. As you can see, there was a letter in there that Amherstburg is looking to join our Lakeshore, our joint dog pound again. There's some negotiations in progress right now because there is willingness with the committee to have Lakeshore join again, or have Amherstburg join again, sorry, but we want to know that they're going to give us a capital commitment. Another comment on there is we're looking to see if there's any desire in the region to change the name. Lakeshore Dog Pound is just a horrible name, so I don't know. I was like Puce Puppies, or I don't know. But anyways, if you think of anything, let me know, because we're kind of looking at a strategic plan for the Lakeshore Dog Pound. Council needs to have the conversation, I would hope soon. I've been working on this, I would hope, for the past 7 years, but we really haven't had that conversation about what level of service we want to have in a dog pound. And not necessarily animal control officer, but in a dog pound. I'd love to have that conversation within the next 6 months before the next election. Another thing to point out to Essex residents, we are putting the most number of dogs in the dog pound. Lakeshore's putting 47 a year. This past year we put 48. So if we do not want to pay for a pound, we need to do a better job of keeping our dogs on our property, because in a perfect world, we wouldn't have to have a dog catcher, an animal control officer, and we wouldn't have to pay to belong to a pound, because there would be no loose dogs out there. So that's what I'd really like to see, but in absence of that, I would really like to talk about level of service in the next 6 months with council. Thank you.
Maybe we wouldn't have as many dogs in the dog pound if we didn't have the big tethering bylaw. I don't know. You can't have them tied up and running loose too. So if they're running loose, they're going to end up in the pound, I guess. But anyways, thank you for that. Okay, ready for the vote? Oh, Councillor Vokes.
Councillor Bondi, I would strongly suggest you call it the Canine Condo Committee, because when taxpayers find out they're paying for condos for dogs, they'll rise to the occasion, and you'll hear a lot out of them, trust me.
Okay, all in favor? Motion carries.
Ava's here.
With your indulgence, Mr. Chair, Ava Hoffman, our youth council member, is here, and I provided, through the chair, I provided a report about our trip to the civics classes this morning, and speaking to the issues of trying to get youth involved, trying to get youth to bring forward issues, and to try to, as well, get youth members to join the youth focus group. So if Ava has some comments to add to that.
Welcome, Eva.
Hi. I don't know, I'll just add that it went pretty well. The speech students seemed to be engaged and they listened well, and I think that there's a few kids that we saw that were pretty interested. So we're hoping to get some people from that.
Thank you.
Oh, and further, Mr. Chair, I did, in my report to council, I did commend what a great job you did this morning. And with no fear of talking in public to 3 classes in a row of your peers. So I did bring to council's attention, to their attention, what a fine job you did.
Thank you very much for that. We did thank you. Councillor Vokes?
Yeah, actually, the truth is, Dave, he talked how great you did for about 40 minutes, and the mayor kept album to move on. Like, you sound like you're the greatest thing since sliced bread when he, but yeah, it sounds like you did a fantastic job on behalf of CUP, so thank you for that.
All right. 11.2.1 on the agenda. Correspondence for receipt and support, that the correspondence from Ethan Robinson offering to sit as a youth council member for wards 3 and 4 be received, and that Ethan Robinson be formally appointed as youth council member for 2017-2018.
Moved by Councillor Snively, supported by Councillor Rogers. Any question? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Welcome, sir.
11.2.2 on the agenda is correspondence from the Ministry of Infrastructure advising on the Town of Essex approval of funding for its various projects concerning the Clean Water and Wastewater Fund. That said correspondence be received and supported by council.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Melange, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Any questions? All in favor? Oh, Councillor Bjorkman has a question.
Just a quick, I think it's worth just going over again that it's upwards of $1 million that's being allotted to us. So to Mr. Nepsy and his team for the applications and getting that in, that's fantastic. Thank you.
For sure. All in favor? Motion carries.
Item 15 on the agenda is notices of motion. 15.1 are notices of motion that were presented at the November 6th regular council meeting and are being brought forward for council's consideration this evening. 15.1.1 is Councillor Bondi with the motion that administration be asked to prepare a report on grading or grader issues on given roads, Snake Lane, in Ward 3 in the town of Essex. And we'd be looking for a seconder for that.
Mr. Clerk, or Mr. Mayor, can I just go to new business first and deal with Elk?
Oh, through the chair, my apologies. I
okay.
thought that was a notice of motion that you added at the adoption of agenda. So it's
Yes,
new business.
yes, you may, Councillor.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through talking with the CAO and the mayor earlier, I got permission to raise this as new business because it's time sensitive, because a lot of stuff is hitting the fan right now, and it's kind of minor in terms of what's happening with the town and really what we're asking. So I believe, as council knows, there's been a whole bunch of complaints about power outages in wards 4 and wards 3 recently. So I would just like to extend an olive branch to the administrators at Elk, have administration draft them a letter and see if they can come to the first meeting in December to try to get a public explanation of what's going on, so that the public explanation is not Councillor Bondi's Facebook. Because I'm a board of director at Elk, but I'm not a CEO and I'm not an engineer, and I can try to explain it as a supplier issue, but I think it would be a lot better coming from the horse's mouth and have a lot more credibility. And then council can also meet with them if we have any concerns, and really get the message out there that whether the problem is Elks and we're working on it, or whether the problem is a supplier issue and we're working on it. So just asking for council permission to send a letter to ELK asking them to come meet with us. So looking for a seconder on that.
Councillor Snively? Comment? Yes, sir.
Through your worship, I think the issue, this has been going on for a while. This is not the first time we had it. It should be mandatory they come and talk to us. They should come here. They work for us. They should, no, they don't, but I mean, we have consumers that have these outages and have the problem. They should come here and answer our questions and our concerns. What is the problem? This has been going on for years. This is not the first time it's happened. So they should come here.
And I'm sure they will. Not that they shouldn't have been here before, but if we request them, we request they come, I'm sure they will, so, yep. Councilor Vokes?
Yeah, I want to iterate to that. The reality is Mike Adet is a very responsible CAO at the top of Elk. He's proven. I've been on that Elk committee for a long time. And if you ask Mike Adet to come here, Mike will be here. I don't want it to make it sound like they're kind of bucking us or they're avoiding us or they're denying us. Let's put the invitation out and then decide whether or not they should be here. Because he will, trust me, Mike Adet will be here with his team in completion and get every answer that is asked of him. It's just the nature of the gentleman, trust me.
Ready for the vote? All in favor? Motion carries.
15.1, under notices of motion for consideration this evening, is Councillor Bondi's motion on the report on greater issues on Snake Lane.
Councilor Bondi?
Need a second.
Need a second.
Okay.
Sorry. Councilor Snively? Or, go ahead, Councilor Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't feel that we need a report. I just have a hard time finding a mechanism to bring up an item for council discussions. Before, we used to have council discussions. Now it's either new business or notice of motion. This doesn't warrant administration to go back into town hall and put hours of pen to paper. It just, I feel like it warrants a public conversation about the road. So a couple weeks ago, I would say maybe 3 weeks ago, there was, you know, it comes back to social media, the good and the bad, right? So some comments on social media about the grading issues on Snake Lane. And then I thought to myself that I've been on council 7 years, and this Snake Lane and grading issues is kind of reared its ugly head a few times. So I'm like, what is the problem, right? It comes and it goes and it comes and it goes and it comes and it goes. Is it an operator issue? Is it a road issue? So I don't know, maybe other council members have some insight. I would think that if it's appropriate, we do have a resident from Snake Lane in the audience. Maybe we can make a motion and allow her to speak before we go further, because even though we have a motion on, we can't, but I would, you know, Brenda's here. Brenda and Gord have drove out here. It's really their road. They have to deal with it every day. I was reluctant to drive down it. I did drive down it today. I did notice that the northern half of the road, it did go like this. The rest of the road really had potholes, like typical potholes you would find on but the part that was really concerning to me was the fact that the northern half of the road, after one of the last bends, the road literally went like this. So I don't know, is that normal? Just looking for that expert engineer explanation.
And that would be Mr. Nepsey, who we've heard from many times in our terms here. Would you like to do it again, Mr. Nepsey? Please. You're the expert.
Through your
Not
worship,
me.
I can speak to some of the issues and some of the history there. I don't have all the details on. I was waiting to see what happened tonight to get into the exact details of operationally when we were out there, what we did exactly to provide those details to council. We all know Snake Lane is an issue gravel road. It is a gravel road though. The biggest issue, Councillor Snively brought this up 2 years ago. We were trying to improve corners. We had a large meeting there with the residents. We talked about the road alignment. The thing that came out, the biggest issue is there's a drainage issue, right? From that meeting, it was clear from the residents that nobody wanted to move forward and do anything with respect to incurring those expenses. So what we're looking at doing from that meeting is the engineering report for the drainage. We need to get the drainage fixed in order to move forward. The fact that there's no drainage means that obviously then the road can't drain properly, which when we've had the moisture we've had this past month, doesn't help that road, any gravel road. The other issue with Snake Lane is you've got relatively high traffic for a gravel road, and you've got 4 90-degree corners on there. Anybody that's driven on a gravel road knows the issues as far as wheel rutting, as far as washerboarding and potholing take place, whether you're coming up to a stop sign or at those 90-degree corners, because everybody starts to slow down at the same rate and the same speed, creates that washerboard. There's some physics involved here as far as the ruts continue to get worse, the potholes get worse, et cetera, et cetera. So that complicates that. You know, like I said, I can come back with the details of when it was done, how it was done, the percent that we grade to, all the OPS information as far as grading the roads, and provide that to you. You know, we're diligent as far as when we do receive calls. If there's an issue, we send them out. We've got various operators as far as experience levels and techniques, but all consistent in terms of what we're trying to achieve. So.
Okay, right there. I was just informed that these notices of motion moved by Councillor Bondi, seconded by Councillor Snively, that administration be asked to prepare a report on the greater issues on given road, which is Snake Lane and Ward 3 in the town of Essex. I should not have asked for a verbal report at this time. The motion is that they bring a report back. So, Councillor Bondi, to you, do you want a report back on given Snake Lane or not?
Just point of clarification, Mr. Mayor, we're not allowed to talk about it tonight. The CAO is looking at you.
Councillor Bondi, or Mrs. CAO.
Through you, Your Worship, council can talk about it in order to move and second that the report come back. In terms of being prepared tonight, administration is not prepared to speak to all the intricacies of this tonight because we're waiting for council. We're not going to go ahead and start doing the report, even if it's just verbal, until we know that council is supportive of this resolution. So if council's supportive, Chris has given you the information he has right now, but there's other information he would like to bring forward.
Councillor Bondi, go ahead.
No, I just,
Good? Okay, if Councillor vote, wait, we have to vote on this one, right? Councillor votes to this
Yes.
issue? Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship. Look, I got no problem with the report coming forward. I don't know what the report's going to say because the problem's been there for 15 years. And one thing I didn't hear is that anything that talks about a schedule. If I lived on Snake Road, I'd be calling, and my question to administration would be, what's your schedule going to allow you to get the grader back down? I'm waiting, right? So my point is, we know Snake Lane has a problem as it lies today. We know we're coming into inclement weather in the fall of the year. You always get it. Half rain, half snow, cloudy, miserable days, 3 and 4 in a row. So my question is, can we have administration direct our public workers tomorrow to go to Snake Lane and pass by with the grader? Just to come up with a more passable road until the report comes back, until we can get it on a schedule, or we can put a process in place that gives the road more attention, recognizing the problems with it. So we know tomorrow morning as a council, when we leave here tonight, in terms of the concerned residents, they at least tomorrow are going to get the road graded until council and administration get their arms around it. That's all I ask.
And all I would say is administration knows what roads need to be repaired tomorrow, the next day, and the next day. I don't know if we should be, well, we can't direct them as to what to do. But, you know, if he feels, and that's Mr. Nepsey, feels that, yes, we have someone available, yeah, we can do it, they'll do it. That's all I want to say.
That's all I want to know, too. Just, that's all you want to say? That's all
And I don't think he's prepared, sir, to tell us right now.
Well, what's the big deal?
What's a big deal? Like, they
What's
have
the
a
big deal?
schedule every day. They have work to do.
It's not
He doesn't know what it is right now. Mr. Nepsey, please.
Chris, can we get some...
Through your worship, what I can
Shut
look
your
at
mic off,
is
sir.
the
Councillor Volk, shut your, please. Thank you.
The grader is on the schedule, especially this time of year. It's out when we can be out weather dependent. So it is on a rotating schedule. We rotate around. So I'm not sure where it's supposed to be tomorrow. If it's in an area that's, that they feel is, what I don't want to do is pull it from somewhere else it's supposed to be. But what I can do is discuss with the manager of operations and see where it's at and you know, where it's supposed to be and what we can do with it.
Okay, thank you.
Can you let me
Councillor
know
Vogt.
tomorrow when that is, Chris, please? First thing tomorrow morning when you get in, get it worked out, so I can let Brenda know and everybody on that road.
Finish with this issue yet? Or Councillor Snively? Okay, go ahead.
Through your worship, just to Chris. I don't know a lot about grading, and I know the issue on this road, and you know, I feel for these people. It's a hell of a road. It's a mess. I know the water table's only down. We did core samples there, 12 inches, 14 inches. We know there's quicksand through there. Now, my question to you, Chris, is this. When we grade, are we grading at the right time? Should we be down there with the grader when it's very wet? I don't know, because to me, to send a grader down there when it's really wet, all that does is make a hell of a mess. Are we grading at the right time? That's my question. I think these people here could live with a little bit of a bumpy road, but what the hell are we doing down there with a grader when it's wet and you have quicksand 14 inches below, or the water table's 12 to 14 inches, and that's all the way along Given Road, all the way along. I know the road very well, and it's a mess. Are we sending the grader down there when it should be sent down there, or should we be sending it down there at maybe a little bit drier time? That's because what we do when we go down there with the grader when it's wet, it's like soup after. So.
Councillor Vogt, you have the floor. Yeah, we all heard that. Go ahead. Well, we can. Yes. Okay, your point of order, I'm taking it into my thought area. I'm going to listen to him. Chris, you don't have to answer that because I know what the answer will be. You're doing your job. You know when to go down there is what I'm thinking. But anyways, who did I have on the list here? Councillor Bondi, is this still here? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that even with Councillor Snively's questions, we're not asking fair questions of Mr. Nepsey because he needs to go back and look at the file, which is what our CAO said. So I don't even think at the next council meeting it has to be a written 5-page report. It could just be some verbal little notes that Mr. Nepsey brings forward telling us when the last time he graded is and telling us what the schedule is for grading that road. So I think that we're still interested in debating this road, but I think the questions that we're asking of administration tonight, they're not prepared to answer. So what I would like to ask is the mayor to call the question, and then I would like to make a motion that Brenda Dunn, because she is here, address council so that we can pull together some of her resident comments too. So that would be, I would like the mayor to call the question on this, and then a motion to have Ms. Dunn approach council.
All in favor? Vote. Motion carries.
Was that a 2-for-1 motion? Does Brenda come up now? Okay, I'd like to make a motion that Miss Brenda Dunn and her husband Gord, if they so desire, or maybe the other neighbors want to come up as well. Anybody from Snake Lane, now's your chance.
Okay? All in favor? Motion carries. You got Steve.
There we are. I've done this before. So the problem has been this year, started off with very large gravel, and we've talked to Mr. Nepsey about that before. And then about a month and a half ago, when it got graded, it was graded like this. Now, we all know the road is supposed to go like this, not like this. And then right after it got graded like this, it poured rain. So you end up with a soupy mess that doesn't drain. So after a couple of weeks of putting up with that, I sent Mr. Nepsey an email and asked them to please tell the grader it goes like this. at a curve, you know, you're supposed to have a crown on the road. So we did send someone out, and it's kind of not so bad, but it still curves in. And it rained the next day again. So all these potholes have been there for a month and a half. We have from south to north, north to south, we have these big ruts that it's more like a January thaw than a September, October, November road. It really needs to be rounded. You know, a road's supposed to have a crown so it drains off with all these monsoon rains we're having, and we're not getting that type of a greater issue. I'm sure Ms. Hunter remembers the last meeting I was at, and I said, what is the big idea of Parks and Rec taking the only person on the road department that knows how to grade a road right? We no longer, he's in Park and Recs now. When that young man was on the grader, he seemed to know what he was doing, and we had a fairly decent road. We don't now. Thank you. Any questions? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. 15.1.2, under notices of motion that were presented November 6, is Councillor Vokes that the speed limit on Gossville Town Line West between Highway 3 and Talbot Street be reduced to 60 kilometers.
Moved by Councillor Vogt, supported by Councillor Snively. Councillor Vogt.
I won't prolong it. Everybody received the email from the resident on Arner. The area has really been somewhat ignored in terms of speed, with Tully Meadows there now and Grove sitting on the horizon for that stretch. There's no reason that road can't be 60 right down to number 3 bypass. And I'll just leave it at that. And I hope council would support doing that.
Okay, all in favor of this motion? Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, for clarification, did we just change the speed limit? I think there's a little more to changing the speed limit there, because it's a county road too. So I think we need to have staff talk about it a little bit.
I know. Stop right now. You're right. You are right. I think we've heard this from Mr. Nepsey and or someone in the past, but Councillor Bjorkman has his hand up. Sir. Councillor Bjorkman, you're up, sir. Point of order is not accepted. Councillor Bjorkman has the floor, sir.
So, okay, that's okay.
That's all.
I just want to know now how will the record show, because it was put to a motion of council.
Just stop, please.
No, I need to know.
You don't need to know anything right now. You will know when it's your turn, sir. It's Councillor Bjorkman's floor.
No,
and
but
if you
it was-
don't stop, I will ask you to leave, or I will call a recess. Now, don't try to buck me.
Are you serious? A motion was put to the floor.
Okay,
It was
there's a
passed.
recess, 5-minute recess.
Honestly?
You're not getting your way all right now.
Really, council?
Your mouth shut for 2 minutes and there'll be no problem.
What are you?
The motion passed.
You tell your
It did.
The record's there.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to speak. It doesn't change what happened.
No, but I don't, we just pass it, right? I don't know what he's doing. I didn't know if we passed it or not. What's he doing? Can somebody tell me what he's doing? I realize that, but we passed, what are we talking about? We just passed as to move with the county.
We can let him, I think he wants to hear, because he's waiting for somebody to say that, but it's moving ahead, that's what it is.
Is that any reason not to call a recess?
I will just say to you, don't be
I don't want the last word. God.
Well, if that's the direction, because otherwise, the motion has passed, is meaningless.
We were back in action here, and Councilor Bjorkman, you had your,
No, give Donna 1 second.
hey,
Give Donna 1 second, sorry.
oh, give Donna 1 second. Where is she?
You go back.
Oh, there she is. Councilor Bjorkman.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was trying to make a comment on this motion, and it went flying past the door. It was pretty quick, but it is correct that we can make this motion, but we can't change that speed limit. This is a county road. This is not a town of Essex road. So at this point, a motion has been made and passed, but there is no teeth behind it. So if there's something else that somebody wants to do, they need to readdress that. Now, speaking to it, this is a highway that we're talking about. The turn into Tully Meadows has a passing lane so cars can get around. We will be having a change once Hamlin extends out to the Arner, and that will change the traffic pattern. And again, our plan is to bring the bike lanes, the paved shoulders, down to there. Until then, it's a highway, and it's no different than turning left off of any other road that's a highway. I think once we make that expansion, whenever we get to Hamlin, when we're working with the MTO, one of the things we want to be careful of is that we want to drive traffic to Hamlin Road. We don't want people driving from here through Woodview, down Woodview, and through Tully Meadows to have the shortcut to get over to Arner instead of taking Victoria. So if they're going to go that way, we want them to go up to Hamlin, not drive through the neighborhood, and then when they get to the Arner, they'll have an 80 they can turn right onto and start getting out of town. So I think it's important we look at where those traffic flows are going to be before we make a quick decision on, oh, there's somebody was driving and thought, wow, somebody could get rear-ended here. That can happen anywhere throughout our community. So we need the full picture of what it is we're looking at, what that road is meant to do, how it's to move traffic, and where we want that traffic going. So I would say this needs a lot more investigation and a much deeper look at before we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Vokes?
Thank you, Worship. That's all I wanted to say prior to taking the recess. I was confused as to what we were doing. That's all. I want to clear the air on that. I was confused as to what we were doing, because it seemed to me as a council we were just passing it, recognizing it was a county road. And that recommendation just go to council, and we wait their decision. And all the work should be done by the county on it. It's not our road. That's all I want done. Thank you.
Councillor Snively?
Through your worship, so in that tone right there, I think maybe the motion should be rescinded, okay, and maybe a motion brought forward to have the county look at it, okay? It's not our municipal government here. It's a county level that should be taken care of. But I think I think the motion should be rescinded. That's what I believe anyways, and maybe a motion just to get the information to the county and have the county look at it.
So one at a time. If he wants to move the motion to rescind, we need a second. Let's deal with that one first.
Okay. So we gotta have him move a second. No, go ahead.
So Councillor Snively,
I'll
you're the
withdraw.
mover on the motion to rescind first?
Yes.
Okay, do we have a seconder?
I'll second, since I'm the owner.
Okay.
Okay, so that's rescinded. Now we need to.
No, we need a vote.
Oh, we need a vote. Motion to rescind.
Okay.
Motion carries. Now, we need a motion. Councillor Vokes?
I'll put a motion for that we identify to the county the concerns of the speed on County Road 23, better known as the Arner Town line from Main Street to number 3 bypass, and we would appreciate a consideration of a reduction of the speed to 60 kilometers an hour.
Seconder. Councillor Bondi, discussion. Councillor Bjorkman?
Thank you, through your honor. I don't think that's the right course of action right now. I don't believe we should be asking the county to look at changing that until we've got our plans drawn up with the MTO and we're sure of where our roads are going to go once they do Highway 3 bypass. At this time, it's not an unsafe road. It's a very safe road. It's well paved. It's well taken care of. It's lit. We've got turning lanes at the corner. When it's time to change that is once the full plan for Highway 3 has been developed. So at this time, I would say we leave the road as status quo. We haven't had accidents. We don't have problems with it. If we want to ask the police department to do a speed count and turn counts and whatever we'd like to do there, that's fine. But right now, we should not be looking to change anything on that road.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Vokes?
Thank you, Worship. I just want to reiterate that in previous discussions here tonight with council, in terms of the presentation given by Jeff Watson, in terms of the comment made by Councillor Snively, that Tembley, that bypass and that development could not happen for a minimum of 5-year period, minimum. We know that, minimum 5 years. So we know that that particular stretch of road is problematic in terms of speeding, and people pulling out in front of people at Tully Meadows and different things. So I'll just leave it at that. I hope council would endorse moving that letter to the county and ask for that reduction.
Deputy Mayor Malash.
Through you, Your Worship, as Councillor Bjorkman was suggesting with police records on accidents and so on, the county administration will come back. They look at all of that information. They go to the police department and ask. And they come back to county council with a recommendation as well. So I'm willing to move it forward to county and put it in their hands as to whether or not that's reduced to a 60 or not, based on the information that they derive.
Anyone else to the motion? I have a couple comments. I'm kind of sticking behind Councillor Bjorkman. Like, I've heard one person complain about the speed limit on that road. One. I've heard one resident complain about speed limit, and he's worried about somebody running him from behind. I've talked to many residents who travel that road both ways daily. They don't want to see it lowered. So I can't support this, at least not right now, while, like Councillor Bjorkman says, wait till we find out what we're going to do with our road system and everything before I'd ever support lowering the speed limit on that road, that's for sure. So I won't be supporting this. Anyone else? Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is there a way we can, without taking it to the next level by going to the county, is there a way we can just look at the OPP incidents and just have that come back to us?
I'm sure if we ask for a report, they would give it
Whether
to
we
us,
work
I'm
with
sure.
the county, just, I think that's the key information there, and then take it from there. I'm stuck between waiting for number 3 and doing something if there's a concern. So what I need to cross off is if there is a safety concern. So we can make up numbers, or we can ask and find out real numbers. So I would be happy with numbers coming back on traffic accident numbers, and then taking it from there. We might not even need a motion. We just can provide some direction.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Ready for the question?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Oh,
Yep. The motion on the floor is for administration to send a letter to county council identifying council's concerns with the speed limit and request that they, county, give consideration to reducing the speed limit to 60 kilometers an hour. So on that question, Councillor Vokes, how do you vote? Support. Councillor Bjorkman?
Oppose.
Councillor Rogers? Councillor Snively? Councillor Bondi? Mayor McDermott?
opposed?
Deputy Mayor Malash?
Support.
So on the question, Councillor Vokes, support. Councillor Bjorkman, oppose. Councillor Rogers, support. Councillor Snively, oppose. Councillor Bondi, oppose. And the Mayor, oppose. And Deputy Mayor Malash, support. With a recorded vote of 3 in support and 4 opposed, the motion fails.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a motion that administration look at getting traffic incident numbers for that road, please?
You can. Supported by Councillor Snively. Any questions to that motion? All in favor? Oh, Councillor Vokes.
So if we take on the responsibility of traffic counts, and we take on the responsibility of investigating the road in terms of speed violations, traffic tickets, accidents, and there's a vehicle accident out there 4 months from now.
I'm not going to answer you, sir, and I'm going to cut you off because I can't tell you what's going to happen once we get these reports back. We got to wait till we get the report before I'm going to make any comment or let anyone ask a question with regards to that. Am I right or wrong, Madam Yes, you may say something.
Through your worship, I just want to address the fact, because you mentioned traffic counts,
but
Councillor Vokes, and at this time of year, the trailer, the OPP trailer for traffic count, like for measuring speeds, has been put away, so we
Okay,
can't
no,
do that at this point. And whether or not they could do it with their county equipment, I don't know.
Okay, thank you. My question was this, is if we do proceedings in terms of percentages and tallies, if there's an accident and it goes into a court of law, are we responsible in any endeavors? Are we legally responsible? Somebody
I
gets
don't
hit.
know. Is there anyone here can
Because we
answer
said
his
we're gonna-
question?
We said we
He's asked a
will do
question.
the counts on it. and
He's
we
asked a
will do
question.
the-
Is there anyone here that can answer that for him?
And since there's nobody here that can answer.
Hang
it-
on, they're just checking here.
Okay.
They're asking a lawyer.
Mr. Mayor, I don't think we'd be any less responsible or any more responsible than we were yesterday.
I don't want to assume though.
I wouldn't either, but I'm not the one.
I don't want to assume.
Do we have a comment from anyone?
Through your worship, I don't think anybody's prepared at this moment to provide comment. I mean, you're talking about a liability issue, and I think if we start talking about liability in open meeting, we could
Yeah,
potentially leave ourselves exposed.
I agree. So I would just prefer to table it until we can identify whether or not we assume any legal responsibility for not asking the county to make the decision, and we're going to do the traffic counts now. And deem it whether it's safe or not based on that. Because I don't want to find myself in a court of law with some jackpot lawyer interrogating me about how I did traffic counts.
We have a motion on the table. Could you read it, please, for all of us?
Mr. Mayor, I believe the motion moved by Councillor Bondi, seconded by Councillor Snively, was for admin to obtain traffic count information pertaining to this road.
Sorry, Mr. Clerk,
Councilor Bondi?
traffic accident incidents number, not counts, incidents that are already completed, that are already done up until today. So not tomorrow's, but up until today's. Going forward, I mean, going backwards, not forward, at that intersection on that road.
Okay, thank you.
So we know what the motion reads. Deputy Mayor Meloche.
So once we know those counts, is there anybody here that's an expert that knows whether that makes it a safe or unsafe road? So, just asking the questions.
Okay, ready? Councillor Snively?
Yeah, through
comment?
your worship, shouldn't the OPP know by the number of accidents if it's a safe road or if it's not a safe road? Plain and simple.
They'll tell us that.
That's why they have the accident counts. And we're talking about the one intersection. I don't know why we're going on and on and on about this. Let's just get an accident report. You know, we have a motion, and I second a motion. If it gets supported by council, let's see how many accidents there. The OPP are going to tell us if it's a safe intersection or if it's not. Plain and simple.
It's not an intersection. It's a stretch of road. It's not an
And Councillor Vokes is right. He wants it 60 from number 3 highway up to the bypass. He wants it 60 all the way. This gentleman that sent the email to us, he had a problem making his right-hand turn into Oakey Street, you know, so you are talking about the same thing that he was talking about. It's dangerous there. So, but Councillor Vokes wants the whole road 60 to 60. Councillor Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to clarify, isn't part of that road already 50 kilometers an hour?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I think everyone spoke to the motion, so all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, got that done.
15.1.3 from notices of motion introduced at the November 6th meeting was Councillor Rogers' motion concerning non-medical cannabis retail facility in Ward 4. Earlier this evening, Mr. Chair, the CEO provided a verbal report, I believe, on this point, and council resolved for administration to provide a letter expressing interest to the ministry. So I leave it up to Councillor Rogers if this motion is still moving forward or whether that's been satisfied.
Thank you, sir.
And once again, on notices of motion as introduced through adoption of published agenda this evening, I just want to clarify the two notices of motion. The first one was Councillor Vokes that administration review its commercial development charge rates. Is that okay? Is that the motion, nature of the motion, Councillor Vokes? And Councillor Bondi, that council defer installation of the site schedule for the Herald banner pole signs until further information review and a site visit is conducted?
Yes, please.
Thank you, sir.
Item 16 on the agenda, any reports from council members this evening?
Okay, Mr. Rogers, I'll start with you, sir. Nothing? Councilor Snively.
Same thing, your worship, just the Friday fish fries at the Legion and Herald.
Councilor Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to again reiterate to our constituents and our residents that we have our ward open house meeting next week for wards 1 and 2 at 6:30 at the Essex Twin Pad Arena, wards 3 and 4 at the Harrow Arena at 6:30. Any Ward 4 resident that comes out and puts their name on a ballot in a hat, I will be selecting one name out of that hat, and then if that person does not get the Harrow News, I will buy it for them for a year. That's what I'm throwing in. You can read all about me. So I hope to see you there, and I would like to put out a challenge to Ward 1 and 2 to see if they can have more attendance to Ward 3 and 4. So it's kind of like this side versus that side. So let's see what you guys can do over there.
Okay, all right. I'll see if anyone takes up the challenge. Okay, we'll start stream outside again. Councilor Bjorkman.
Are we including our announcements in these right now?
Sure.
Okay, so just coming up Friday the 24th is Salvation Army kickoff and the Essex BIA tree lighting, front lawn of the municipal building at 6 o'clock. They'll have music, hot drinks and snacks, horse and buggy rides. That runs from 6 till 7:30. And then, I don't know if you wanted to mention, we've got the Harrow Santa Claus Parade will be before our next council meeting. So Saturday, Friday, December 1st at 6:30 is the Harrow Santa Claus Parade. And then the next day, Saturday, December 2nd and 3rd, Essex United Church is having their district craft show. So come on out and support all the local vendors.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Vokes. Nothing. Deputy Mayor Malash.
Through you, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of announcements of events coming up here. With the Christmas holidays coming up. This coming, so again, before the next council meeting, Guesto Hayride with Santa Claus. That starts at 11 o'clock at Colchester North Public School. That's Saturday, December the 2nd. We will have a council meeting before the Victorian Day at train station, but it's the Victorian Christmas Day at the train station. That's starts at 10 o'clock in the morning at the train station, of course, here in the town of Essex, Essex Center. And parades were already mentioned. For those that are volunteers with the town of Essex, we have a volunteer appreciation evening coming up this coming Friday, November the 24th. It starts at 6:30 at the Twin Pad Arena, and that's in the Shaheen Room. I was trying to think of the room name, Shaheen Room. Thank you.
Okay, coming back to the other side for reports, announcements. They're making reports too, so if you have anything, okay. And everything that I was going to report on has been covered already, so Thank you very much for that, although I will remind you, I think I sent everyone an email that I will be away next week, so I won't be at, the open houses for you, so. Thank you very much for that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. 18.1 on the agenda is bylaws for third and final reading. Consent?
I'm just going to double check. I know the county, she has to read them, each one separately and be voted on. I don't know, are we in the same?
Can we consent?
With regards to that?
Okay.
I think we may have done them all in the
I believe
past.
we can consent them.
Consent them all.
So that would be, just for clarification, Mr. Chair, that would be the bylaws listed for third and final reading.
Okay. Third and final reading. And the other ones would just be moved for the first and second?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that would be all items listed in 18.1 on the consent agenda? Okay.
Yep. Okay. Moved by Councillor Snively, supported by Deputy Mayor Malash. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you.
18.2.1, Bylaw 1658, to authorize an agreement between Her Majesty the Queen, as represented by Minister of Infrastructure, and the Town of Essex. This relates to the approved funding projects from the Clean Water and Wastewater Fund.
Moved by Councillor Rogers, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
And Bylaw 1660 for first and second reading to confirm the proceedings of this November 20th regular council meeting.
So moved by Councillor Snively and Councillor Rogers. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries. Looking for an adjournment. Councillor Rogers and Deputy Mayor Malash. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries.